Welcome to this explainer. Today we're exploring a truly profound philosophical shift in how we perceive something that drives, well, almost all human behavior, love. But listen, we aren't going to look at this through the typical lens of rom-coms or biological chemistry. Instead, we're breaking down this incredibly complex human experience using a really powerful, minimalist visual metaphor from our source material. We are going to examine the fundamental difference between the internal state of being in love and the completely exhausting external state of seeking love. Okay, let's dive into this. I want you to picture a minimalist one-line heart illustration on a stark white background. It's made of just a single continuous red line. No shading, no fill colors, just that stark red outline. Now, ask yourself, what is that line doing? Does it loop back on itself, creating a completely closed circle? Or does it stretch out, kind of twisting and curving, extending endlessly into the empty space? That simple visual choice actually represents the difference between two totally different ways of existing. It perfectly contrasts the grounded feeling of, arriving home with the relentless journey of looking. Section 1, the one-line metaphor, energy and flow. And this brilliantly illustrates how the direction of that simple red line reveals exactly where our emotional energy is flowing. Notice the left side, the man in love. His red line loops inward. It connects deeply, creating a full, closed circle. When you embody this state, you're grounded, you're still, you're completely content because your heart has found its landing place. Your energy is just settled. But now look at the right side, the man seeking love. His line reaches out into the empty space. It twists, it curves, it constantly stretches toward the unknown. This state is always in motion, full of hope, longing, and anticipation. This energy is restless. Honestly, it's a lot like the sheer exhaustion of endless swiping on dating apps, right? Always looking outward for that second half of the story to finally connect with. What this metaphor shows us is absolutely crucial. Love isn't about a specific person. It's not a mathematical formula, and it's definitely not a transaction. It's entirely about our internal landscape. See, love acts like a mirror to our own mental and emotional state. It's not a fixed object that you just happen to stumble over while walking down the street. If you are constantly reaching into the empty space, you're experiencing the longing for sure, but you aren't actually experiencing the love. Section 2. Two lenses of love, scarcity versus abundance. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how clearly these two mindsets contrast. Look at the scarcity lens on the left, the mind seeking love. Its operating state is based entirely on a perceived lack. Because of that, its action is to constantly scan the horizon, constantly projecting desires, always imagining what external thing will finally bring a sense of completion. The result? The mind is trapped in an exhausting state of longing. Now compare that to the abundance lens on the right, the mind in love. This operating state is rooted purely in presence. The action here isn't scanning. It's a willingness to open up, to be vulnerable, and to fully appreciate exactly what is right in front of you. And the result is that the mind simply stops searching. It stops searching because it already feels full. It's the profound difference between an exhausting search driven by emptiness and a settled fullness driven by appreciation. Section 3. The paradox of elusiveness, chasing the horizon. Love feels elusive, like a horizon line that moves farther away the faster you run toward it. Think about that for a second. When your mind is focused purely on seeking, it operates from that exact place of lack we were just talking about. And because you are running toward this imagined point of completion somewhere off in the distance, you can never actually reach it. The very act of desperate seeking is literally what pushes the feeling of love further into the distance. And here is the paradox laid out plainly. We have this completely backward. We operate under the assumption that we need to find love out there in the world in order to change our internal state of mind from anxious to peaceful. But the truth is exactly the opposite. We have to change our state of mind first to even be able to recognize love when it arrives. I mean, think about it. If your mind is turbulent, if it's distracted, if it's guarded and closed off, true love could be standing right next to you and it would remain completely invisible. Section 4. Embody the frequency, an internal state. Let's move to the next concept and see how this builds, because this fundamentally redefines the very nature of love. When you treat love as a state of mind, it completely ceases being a mere reaction to an external person. It stops being a transaction where you give something just to get something back. And it absolutely isn't just a stroke of luck. Instead, love is an internal capacity. It is a highly specific frequency of openness, appreciation, and presence. Viewing love this way, it changes the entire game. You don't have to wait for someone to hand it to you. You have the capacity to generate it yourself. Look at how this frequency applies to our two original states. On the left, being in love means your mind is currently tuned to a frequency of abundance. You are in a state of fullness, where you're actively experiencing and generating appreciation, whether that's for life, for yourself, or for another person. Your mind isn't asking for anything, it's simply overflowing. But over on the right, seeking love means your mind is stuck in preparation mode. It's tuned to a frequency of waiting. You're constantly looking outside of yourself for a catalyst, some external event or person to finally trigger that state of abundance. But by doing that, you're leaving your internal state entirely at the mercy of external forces. So the crucial point is this. Let's look back at our original one-line metaphor of the man in love, that closed, perfectly grounded circle. We now realize that he isn't necessarily someone who just successfully hunted down an external prize. No, he's someone who has unlocked a state of abundance within his own mind. His mind is overflowing, and because it isn't asking for anything, it's found peace. Love is an embodied internal state. It's not, and it really never has been, an object to be caught. We generate this frequency internally. I want to leave you with this final thought. Take a look at your own life, your own continuous red line, and the direction your energy is flowing right now. Are you endlessly reaching out into the empty space, just exhausting yourself trying to catch love like some elusive prize? Or are you ready to do the internal work, to tune your frequency and finally begin to embody it?